Welcome to Untold Trails, a storytelling podcast exploring the people, races, brands, and moments that shape trail and fell running. I'm Scott.
And I'm Fraser.
Untold Trails, stories from the trails, past, present, and what comes next.
Trail fans, if like us, you enjoy your raw, mountainous adventures here in the British Isles or further afield, you would have been shocked with the news a few weeks ago of the end of Aurea events. Shane Hawley and his team have been putting on some amazing races in the British Isles for numerous years. The Dragon's Back, the Northern Traverse, the Glencoe Skyline, to name just a few. And unfortunately, we are in dire economic and testing times for small businesses. So it was with a heavy heart that we read this news a few weeks ago. But alas, right here, we've got some breaking news with the resurrection of the Dragon's Back. Yes, the Dragon's Back is back, as is the Northern Traverse. Ultra X have announced that they will be taking over these two races. Ultra X are a small and enthusiastic team of event organisers. They organise multiple events around the globe, multi-day and single day, something for everyone in there. So as trail fans, we're very relieved and we're excited to see what Ultra X are going to bring to the British scene as they take over the Dragon's Back race and the Northern Traverse. So we've got an interview with Sam from Ultra X that we want to share with you, which will hopefully shed some light on what this means now for these two races moving forward, and for you guys out there who might have signed up or are thinking of signing up for one of these events this year or in the future. We're delighted to share some insights from Sam into what will happen next with the Dragon's Back race and the Northern Traverse going forward in 2026 and beyond.
Hi Sam, thanks for joining us. Co-founder of Ultra X. Massive breaking news in the trail world this week about Ultra X resurrecting the Dragon's Back and the Northern Traverse. Must have been a mental few weeks for you, Sam, and I'm sure the next few weeks and months are going to be very challenging, but we're very excited to hear more about it. And maybe we'll just start by asking you when you first heard about the Aurea situation and the opportunity for Ultra X.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me on. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about it. It has been a busy, kind of crazy few weeks. Yeah, it's been really exciting, and it's amazing now to be able to talk about what's going on and what the kind of plan is. But yeah, in answer to your question, I found out about Aurea going into administration. I think actually at the same time, most of the general public did. It was Thursday evening now, so almost 4 weeks ago, and saw the announcement. And actually I checked my kind of WhatsApp, and about 3 or 4 people had sent it to me. And I was pretty shocked. I know the company, I know Shane, I know a few of their team, just because of the nature of the industry. And they're a company I've always looked up to hugely, for the way they do events and for kind of the way the team handles themselves. And so I think the first reaction was actually sadness more than anything. And I think, it's a difficult industry. I think you see it kind of fractures in different places, but to be honest, I hadn't seen it coming at all. It was kind of a bit of shock. And I dropped Shane a message, as I expect a lot of people in this space did, essentially saying, like, I'm really sorry, and thoughts are with you on that kind of Thursday evening. And then kind of following a night's sleep and, a bit of chat with some of the team within Ultra X, it kind of shifted to being like, actually, yeah, obviously this is very sad, but is there an opportunity here to try and support everyone that has been affected by it? A lot of runners who spent money, but also time and it's sometimes like, seasons or years to prepare for these kind of things. Is there an opportunity to resurrect them? Is there an opportunity to bring one or maybe more events which in some ways align with what we're trying to do into kind of our portfolio? And is there a way to use that as an opportunity to kind of learn from Araya and how they deliver events? And so we were kind of beginning to have those conversations on the Friday and then over that weekend before Araya officially went into administration, which was on the Monday after that. So it's kind of a fairly hectic few days. And I think there's quite a lot I can't say about what's happened and the discussions that have been had over the last few weeks, just because of the process of going through administration. And soon as, Shane officially put that, put the company into that process, then it is in the hands of the administrators. And what I can say about that process is actually relatively limited. But there was this kind of 3-day period before that actually happened, Friday to kind of Monday, where I think there was a few people looking to potentially try and make something happen. And I think within such a short space of time, and it's just a very complicated situation for so many parts, that actually it was decided on Monday, no, that's not going to be the course. And so then we went through the kind of more formal administration process to get to where we are today.
So what was it that first made you think that UltraX were the right business to be taking on this huge event, Sam?
I think there was a few things. I think we have formed the business and built the business predominantly through organizing stage races in weird, wonderful, remote parts of the world. And we are a young, incredibly ambitious team that are looking to kind of improve and grow and learn, but also, move the trail space forward. There's two ways you can grow an events series. One is to set up new events, and the other one is to acquire or kind of bring events into your portfolio. And we've never really been in the position, the time has never been right to acquire events before. But when this happened, it felt like this was something that maybe was meant to be, and maybe it just fitted into kind of, the stage we're at. And so I think, it made a lot of sense from that respect.
And I mean, when I first heard about it and was listening about potential suitors for the race, I must admit it's a very unusual race setup. And you guys were the ones that first sprang to mind in terms of an organisation that could maybe take this on. I suppose in terms of the risks of taking something like this on, what would it have been that might have held you back from moving forward with it?
I mean, there's a lot. I think in an administrative acquisition, which is effectively what we were in, there's a lot of unknowns, and you don't know if there's skeletons in the closet, and you don't really know what you're purchasing or acquiring. We haven't acquired the business, so that's kind of something separate. So I think there's always going to be an element of risk. I would say that from our side, I think most people see Araya as a really professional organization. I've been up to their warehouse. I've spent time with Shane. I spent time with their organization. I think there's a lot of kind of trust which had to go into why we thought it would be a good relationship, and it was something we were kind of happy to pick up. Their business has effectively gone bust, which tells you what you are, taking on something of high risk. The way Araya delivered events, in particularly Dragon's Back, Cape Wrath is similar, but that's not an event we're kind of taking on, is incredibly capital intensive. There's a lot of kit, there's a lot of staff. It's actually quite different to the way we operate events, in terms of, there's food provided. It's a much bigger kind of camp operation, logistical feat than kind of traditionally what we might provide in some of our kind of more remote places. And there's, things like, the fire and the tail, which add on like different elements. So there's quite a lot of complexities around the delivering of the events. I think the other big thing is, we've now basically got to deliver an event with a pretty short time frame, having a lot of people being told it's not going to happen, whether that's suppliers, volunteers, runners, with a lot of the money that was spent on, was supposed to be put towards the event now gone. So there's an element of risk there. We've been able to look at budgets and how much the event's going to kind of cost to put on, and of course we have made a plan so that we can deliver on that. But again, you're creating a plan based on kind of the future rather than the past. So I think there's always a little bit of an element of risk with that. That said, we absolutely would not have done this if we thought the positive opportunities didn't outweigh the risk that we're taking on. And, and we did spend a lot of time looking at, I guess the business side as well as the kind of emotional side. And I'm a runner, the rest of our team, has looked up to these events for years and years and years. And to be honest, being in a position to help deliver them and be a part of that it just feels like a huge privilege and something we're incredibly excited about. So it's kind of almost, you've got to remove yourself from that. But we also, really believe that we can grow them, provide them with a safe home, provide competitors with an event, and also provide those people that would have effectively lost actually quite a considerable amount of money when you think about, because these are not, they're not cheap races, with something they can put that credit towards, whether it is a Dragon's Back this year or whether it is something in 2 or 3 years' time, because now they've made other plans, which we totally get.
I mean, obviously, when the news broke, I think from a runner's perspective, there was this initial sort of an unsettling feeling, obviously, and for those for those who'd already signed up for this year's race or were thinking of doing it in the future for the Dragon's Back. Was that something that sort of it weighed on you guys as well when you were contemplating this move?
Big time, and a big part of what we have announced this week and what we're doing is a commitment to the runners, and I think that was a big part of why Shane decided that we were the right people to take the event forward. Was that part of our offer of kind of goodwill is that everyone that has paid for entry for Dragon's Back, Northern Traverse, but also Cape Wrath, even though we're not acquiring that event, because we do think that is too risky as an event to deliver, we are honouring pound for pound every penny they've paid towards those events this year, and whether that's in a Northern Traverse or a Dragon's Back, or it's any Ultra X event which we can offer, and that is over in the next 3 years. So yeah, that was a big part of it. As I was saying, we get it. I've been in that situation before. When COVID happened, I lost a good amount of money on races, and it really does suck. But also it's that losing that thing that you're kind of building up to, and so one of the reasons we're really excited to announce it this week is we can finally actually have those conversations, and we're trying to move as quickly as possible, because obviously every going day that passes, you're thinking about, particularly if those people who are doing who signed down for Dragon's Back in September, they're either, entering something else, or they're just, stopping training and kind of being like, maybe this wasn't the year, which is a huge shame when, it's such a financial, but also time commitment, but also mental commitment to do something like that.
Yeah, I think people build for something like the Dragon's Back for years and years, and sort of have that shock, and that's clearly something that weighed into your decision as well. It's not something like just signing up for a 30k or a 50k race and going, oh well, you can take it or leave it if it gets cancelled or something.
For sure.
So did that weigh into your decision then? The amount of time that people were obviously taking to do the training and get ready for a Dragon's Back, or even a Northern Traverse as well?
A big part of the decision was we felt the events should continue, and we wanted to make them continue, and we thought that would play well into kind of our brand and our business. Another massive part was that we thought, there's a huge opportunity there to, support all of the people that are affected, but also build on a bit of goodwill there. I think there's a huge opportunity, and a massive believer in kind of life in general. When something happens, which is terrible, there's a huge opportunity to put a positive spin on it. And, this situation, I see as now actually, and I think I'm incredibly excited for this year's Dragons Back, because I think it's going to be a huge celebration of, an event happening, which may not have happened for a very long time. So I think that was a huge, a big part of our decision was like, yes, of course we want to give these people an event, but also, what's better than giving them an event from square one is giving them an event when they think they're not going to get one. And I think that was a really exciting thing to try and to be a part of, and will continue to be over the next 4 months for Dragons Back, and then the next year for Northern Traverse, because obviously whilst there were a few variations of the event this year, Northern Traverse didn't happen, and that was called off with 10 days or 2 weeks ago.
And will there be an opportunity for new entrants on the Dragons Back for this year's race, Sam?
Yes, so that is one of the reasons that we have held off announcing, because we wanted to make sure that everything was kind of set up for launch. So all entrants that had signed up have a place, and we're committed, but we are also reopening registrations, because Area would have had another 3 months of registrations opening. There's still capacity at the event. So yes, there is the opportunity for people to sign up to Dragons Back this year, as of the time that this podcast goes live, and we are looking to open Northern Traverse in the next 4 weeks as well. Obviously, there will be a huge amount of places taken up by this year's competitors, but we expect that there will be some available as well.
Amazing. And will the race look any different? Is it going to be the same? Is it going to be any of the team coming across to help deliver it?
Yeah, so I think this is something I really do want to make quite clear. So we are not coming in to change everything. I think the events they built, Area built, are exceptional, and anyone that does them and has experienced them has so many good things to say about them, and it wouldn't make any sense for us to kind of take over something and then completely change it. So yes, their head of event delivery, Greg, is now essentially leading on those 2 events. He's kind of come across directly. Shane will continue to stay involved on a kind of contractual basis to kind of support with the handover and making sure of continuity. But for the next 12 months, our focus is on delivering the events as they were planned and as competitors signed down for. I think it would be unfair for anyone that has paid for a Dragons Back 2026 ticket based on what Area said they were going to deliver, for us to go and change it and make it into an Ultra X event. They're not going to become Dragons Back by Ultra X. They're not going to become Northern Traverse by Ultra X. They're not going to become Ultra X Wales Dragons Back. These are going to stay Dragons Back. They're going to stay Northern Traverse. They're going to be operated in a separate company as an independent organization, and that is a really important point for us to kind of get across, because as I say, what we're doing is not changing the events. We will probably over the years come through and say, okay, this might need a tweak, or this we might change this slightly, but we're not going to be reinventing the wheel with these things.
I think people on the outside, Sam, are sort of looking for clarity, bearing in mind what you've just said, so over the next few weeks, what will it look like as far as a rollout to either those that were committed before, or those that are maybe thinking of signing on now? I could hear ears burning as you said that earlier. So what's the next few weeks look like in getting a package out to anyone that's interested now?
Hopefully by the time this podcast is released, everyone who has signed up to either Cape Wrath, Northern Traverse, or any of the Traverse distances, or Dragons Back and any of the Dragons Back distances, will have received email communication essentially outlining the next steps for them, which will be either to confirm their entry at essentially the same event but a new site, because some of them will have been fully paid up for these events, and they can literally just click a button and be like, yep, I'm coming. Some of those will have paid up maybe 50% or 75% of their thing, and they might say, actually, I'm not going to do the event. I want to take that as credit for something in the future. Or they can say, yeah, I'm happy, but I will then have to pay the remaining installments. But essentially, everyone will receive clear communications at the same point the press release is made out. We've created a new kind of contact email address and an FAQ page, which is sitting on the Dragon's Back website. We'll be prioritizing being as quick as we can to respond to all those things. Obviously, we're expecting quite a lot. So hopefully people will bear with us, but we are doing our best to kind of make sure everyone knows exactly what's going on. And we're looking to be very transparent about, the whole situation. So again, at the same point that the press release and kind of our communications go out, there will be emails going out to everyone in the database that has expressed interest in Northern Traverse and Dragon's Back in the past as well, and also through our UltraX's communications channels about kind of what the next steps will look like. But obviously, with these things, you never quite know fully what people are going to ask. You can predict a lot of it, but we're just going to be as open and trying to be as communicative and helpful as possible as we kind of always are. But in particular, over the next kind of few weeks, because we know that it's been a really uncertain and difficult period for many people. And I think as people that do this a lot, you often kind of assume a lot of people are maybe very experienced and get kind of used to this. But actually, I think maybe it's not so much the case for Dragon's Back, but actually there are people who would be signing up this year who will, and this will no doubt be the biggest challenge they've done. It might be something they've been building up for years and years. So actually providing that kind of sense of assurance and certainty is a big goal for us.
Yeah, I'm sure it's really reassuring for a lot of people, and there'll be a lot of excited people looking ahead now to September. And
well, I hope so. I mean, I really hope, because there are obviously a few hundred people signed up for the race, and I really hope that because of what's happened in the last 4 weeks, not too many people have changed their plans or stopped their training, and that, as I say, we can create an event which is a real celebration this September.
And just, I actually messaged you a few days ago, Sam, just to ask you how things were going, and you immediately sent me a voicemail back, and you did that from halfway up a mountain in South Africa. You're actually away on a family weekend celebrating a wedding, but took the time to go up a mountain and check some safety equipment while you were there for the weekend. So I think that says quite a lot about you guys in terms of your hands-on approach to this, and I'm sure it'll be strategically a bit of a different path for you now in UltraX. But is that the way that you guys operate? Are you your sleeves up, hands on a kind of approach?
I think you have to be in this industry at this size. At the end of the day, we're still a small business, and everyone kind of mucks in. And I think from my side, I like to be involved in the kind of the nitty gritty event delivery, particularly. So yes, we will be definitely very involved in the kind of day-to-day detail running of the events. We will be at the Dragon's Back this year. We're still trying to work out exactly how that will look, because I race direct UltraX Slovenia, which happens on the Saturday, Sunday, first weekend of September. Then we have the Dragon's Back, which starts on the Monday. And then we have UltraX England, which starts on the following Saturday. So we've got 3 events in 7 days, which before this all happened, that was going to be our busiest week we've ever had. Now it's kind of on another level. But as I say, in a way, that's actually a positive for us, because the way we are setting these 2 events up is that this is a separate, we're going to be using a lot of the same systems. We're going to be using a lot of the same equipment. We're going to be sharing a lot of resources. But actually, from our side, we need to find a way that, we can deliver events when I'm not there or Jamie's not there or whatever. And that actually is quite a good process for us, because it means we set up, we make sure those systems are kind of watertight, and it's not, key person, not having key person reliance.
So there's a possible triple crown there, isn't there? Like Slovenia, Dragons back, and then.
Well, I don't think. I mean, because of Ultra X England, you couldn't. That actually begins on the final day of Dragons back. So, I guess the only way would if you did just the 50k on England on the Sunday, you could actually do an event at all three. So yes, that is a challenge going out there.
Yeah. But I think one thing that strikes me about Ultra X is, well, one of the little perks you give is you give free race slots to under 23s in many of your events. Is there any sort of bonuses or anything that you might want to throw out there for the 2 races you just acquired in a similar vein?
We have an under 23 policy. Accessibility has always been kind of the central value of Ultra X. The reason we set it up was because both Jamie and I had kind of transformative experiences in our early 20s and essentially found the space to be quite exclusive and quite intimidating. So that was the kind of whole rationale behind Ultra X. So we created the under 23 scheme last summer, and that was to give essentially young trail runners the opportunity to do our UK events. I wouldn't want to necessarily add that to some of the toughest events on the planet, which, I think the 2 events we are bringing to our portfolio are, and as I say, they're slightly different. I would absolutely want to see how we can build something that encourages, the future of the sport to be able to have a pipeline into those events. Not quite sure what that would look like at the moment, but that's it's a really big part of our brand, and it's something we all care strongly about, and I'm involved in a charitable trail plan which does some amazing work in that space as well, and it's something we all care a lot about. So I think trying to work out how we can ensure that the future of the sport have a bit of a kind of pipeline to follow is important, but at the moment we are not planning to give under 23s free places at the Dragons back.
Well, Sam, it's been amazing to speak to you today. Me and Scott and everyone at Trail Fans wish you the best of luck. Feels like this is just the beginning of the story. Good luck, and we can't wait to see how things unfold over the coming months.
Thank you so much for having me on. Really enjoyed it, guys. And you're right. The work is about to begin.
Thank you for taking the time to speak to us.
No problem.
Untold Trails. Stories from the trails, past, present, and what comes next.